And it's good news with Dick Baumbach. How are you today, Mr. Baumbach?
I am great. And by the way, I don't know if you've noticed the last couple of shows, I didn't have any cough or anything. I must be healthy again.
You must be healthy, and it looks like you got a haircut today.
Actually, no, I always am bald. But with the first story, you want to read the headline?
Yeah, the first story is about haircuts. A woman has first haircut since 1994 to raise money for charity.
Yep, this is Elaine Mays. She has not gotten a haircut since 1994. But because of the sake of charity, she had 55 inches of hair cut off her head, and it raised $3,000 for cancer research in England. And they are going to be making wigs for children who lost their hair during chemotherapy.
Wow, that's an amazing story. That's 55 inches of hair is a lot of hair.
Yeah, that's true. And since I have zero and you have a lot more than I do.
You know, when I was in the military, I was stationed with this lady. Her name was Rita Fowler. And I always thought that her hair always looked so nice. And I literally had no idea that she wore a wig. Oh, wow. I had no idea. And one day we had gone out. We were traveling. We were recruiters at the time, and we were traveling. And we were traveling to some seminar or something, and she came out of to dinner with the rest of us, and she didn't have the wig on, and her hair literally was to the floor.
Oh,
it was. God. She had not had her hair cut since she was like 6 years old, and it was like, I don't know how she got it all up into the wig.
Wow!
But it was amazing, and she would not cut it, and I often wondered when I saw this story. I was wondered, what's her name? What's this woman's name?
Yeah,
because
maybe they're friends.
It's crazy, but yeah, I'd never seen hair that long. So the next one is dad and daughter missing at sea, found 1 month later. I think I heard a little bit about this one.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, this happened. It was an international search. And Alan Langdon and his daughter, Qui, it came to an end. They had a damaged yacht, and they had left from New Zealand just for a small trip. And suddenly, the boat's rudder got damaged, and Alan he knows about sailing. So he decided to float with the sea as the tides moved rather than try and go back. Well, it pushed them over to Australia.
Wow.
And the family thought everything was
done.
gone.
Yeah.
And he called from Australia and said, "We're safe."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Have you ever seen that movie with Robert Redford where he's on, I can't remember the name of it, but he's on his yacht, and he's out in the Indian Ocean, and the yacht hits a container that fell off the ship.
Yes, I can't remember the name of it.
Every time I talk to my wife about, I think we should get a sailboat instead of a big, gigantic RV. She says, "Remember that movie?"
Yes.
And it's like, I can feel the water and, taking the breath. And I think at the end, it leaves you kind of hanging,
Well, and also remember the Tom Hanks one.
Oh, yeah. Castaway is like Wilson. I could see myself talking to the boat.
I go with the RV.
Yeah, same here. The next story you have is couple gives back to homeless man who offered his coat in the cold. This is just dumbfounding to me. It's like
it was to me too, Jeff. When I first saw this story, this is Charlotte Ellis and her boyfriend Taylor Walden, and they went out for a few drinks in Covent Garden, London, and on January 4th. And they were returning from a night out when they missed their train home to Essex. And the next train would not be there for 4 more hours.
Wow.
And it was very, very cold. Well, all of a sudden, Charlotte hears a voice from behind her. A homeless man named Joey says, "Here, I'll give you my coat so you can be warm until the train comes." But they're like, "Whoa." Well, they started talking to him, and he was said, "Well, I just saw you were really cold, so I'll help you out." They turned around, took him to their house, put him up for the night, found him a job, found him clothing, and they wanted to pay it back. And
Wow.
Joey is still like, he can't believe, but he was just being
Yeah, that just shows that there are good people in the world.
right.
You know, have you seen the video of the young boy in New York City on the street? It's in the middle of the winter, and he is literally just shivering like uncontrollably, so cold, and he's asking people when they go by for anything to help warm him up, and nobody stops. And this goes on for about 4 or 5 minutes in the video itself, and nobody stops. And finally, a homeless man comes over to him, takes off his coat, wraps this kid up, and says, I've got you, little buddy. And only when that happened did anybody else even consider to stop. It's a child freezing, and people just like oblivious, just keep walking. I could not pass somebody that was that cold.
Well, you know, it's interesting. When our son was at American Music and Dramatic Academy in New York, one of the assignments they had to do was they had to perform as a street beggar on the street. And he said that was one of his hardest things that he ever had to do.
Yeah.
Because he knew he wasn't, but most people walked right by. And then some people just said, "Here."
Yeah. You know, there's another one where he's a world famous violinist, and he dresses as a bum, and he's sitting on the street playing the violin, and nobody comes by. Nobody gives him any money, nothing. The next piece, he goes and changes, and he dresses himself up, and he stands out there on the street playing the violin, and every person that passed by is dropping money in his cup. And it's like this, it's the same man playing the same music.
That is unbelievable.
Isn't that telling?
Yes.
That is so telling of what many of us have become.
Yeah.
And it's in so many ways very sad.
Yeah. I mean, but hopefully, we're in another era right now. Let's see what happens.
We are. And speaking of other eras, this is a story about a man that could probably share a lot of these kind of stories with us. He's the world's oldest man who turns 146 and says the key to long life is just patience.
This is Maha Goto, an Indonesian man, and they've now verified he was born December 31st, 1870.
Holy smokes.
And the local government has confirmed that, and now they're getting a third party to verify it, and so he can get the Guinness Book of World Records. But he has lived 24 years past the current record set by a man from France who has lived to be 122. But this gentleman, he has outlived 4 wives, 10 siblings, and all his children. And
wow.
But they asked him, what keeps you going? His patience. It's like, but 146.
It's amazing. 146. I had a great grandmother that lived well into her hundreds, and it's debated whether it was 109 or 110. And my grandfather was 96, and we had other ones that were well into their 90s. And I'm sitting thinking, I've got to have patience to make it that far. Yeah, you do have to have a lot of patience.
Well, I mean,
I'm waiting for the end. No.
But I mean, at 100, when I saw that story, and decide to use it. 1870, that's 5 years after the end of the Civil War.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? It's just like...
And what he has, I mean, I'm sure he hasn't seen, but think about what he's seen. There was no electricity.
Right.
There was no phones.
No cars.
No
nothing. Yeah.
You know,
it's amazing story. Just to think that you could live that long. And before we go, just think about what you just said. In your lifetime, look at the things that you have seen have in just the last 10 years.
Right.
Just since you've come to report on the space program, what has taken place?
I know. It's mind-boggling. I mean, like, we got each other for Christmas. Our joint gift was a Alexa from the Amazon Echo.
Oh, I was going to say, Alexis, why are you driving the Miata today? I know that. Yeah.
But to sit there and say, Alexa, sing "Happy Birthday" to somebody. Okay.
You haven't gotten the dollhouse yet, have you?
No.
So when you were doing the space program, right before we go, I've got to ask you this. When you doing the space program, you came up with one of the first models, you said,
right,
of it. Did you have any idea that in your lifetime they would be talking about going to Mars to colonize it?
Well, yeah, they were talking about it back then, but to me, it was the shuttle had to be gotten, and what people who were negative, and there are always people that are
right,
negative, were saying, well, the shuttle's only going to go up 240 miles, and Mars is 8 billion miles away. But I think that we're going to go all over.
I do too.
And I think we're going to get visitors too.
I'm not going to commit to that just yet because they might already be here. I don't know.
That's like me.
Some of the people that you meet, you got to wonder, what world are they from? So what a great show. Thank you so much, Mr. Baumbach, for bringing us the good news, and have yourself a great day.
You too. Take care.
Take
Talk to
care.
you next week.